a really well-known singer-songwriter in the Houston area. She's not with us this Sunday. She's actually on the road touring, but she's going to act as our booking agent, and she's going to line up great musicians for us every week. We have, this week, we'll kick it off with the Reverend Dr. Otis Futhermucker, which I've never said in church before. And we're glad to have him. I'll invite him. He's going to do a couple songs, and we'll get up and do a meet and greet time, and we got a few other things lined up for you today, so I just hope you have a good time. And coffee and tea and water in the back, which you probably found. Restrooms, if you go out the same way you came in, just turn left down the hall that goes into kind of the office building portion. So, Otis, do you want to come up and tell us a little about your story and lead us in some songs?
Well, I have to say, I've been playing music for different kinds of audiences for over 50 years. This is the first time I've been out at 10:30 on a Sunday morning. And I should make it clear that I'm not a singer-songwriter. I play music from the blues canon, all of the thousands and thousands of blues songs that have been written since, the mid-1800s, I guess. So you may have heard some of these songs. Because we have some young people in the audience, and I think that's a fantastic thing, I'm going to modify some of the lyrics. Because blues music is not nice music. It is not music that you play for the PTA or for church. You can tell from my accent that I'm not from Mississippi or anywhere like that. I started playing blues when I was 15 years old in Oxford, England. Luckily enough, fell in with some people who were playing Ray Charles songs at that time. I'm going to kick one off. This is an old blues, and again, I'm going to leave some lyrics out, so just use your imagination. I'm gonna move way out on the outskirts of town. I'm gonna move way out on the outskirts of town. Then I won't have nobody always hanging around. May sound funny, honey, funny as funny can be. You know we got 7 children, none of them look like me. That's why I'm gonna move on the outskirts of town. Won't have nobody always hanging around. You can tell that Iceman to stay away from here. You don't need no Iceman, baby. I'm gonna buy you a Frigidaire when we move on the outskirts of town. I won't have nobody always hanging around. that mailman. He don't have to call, 'cause when you got me, baby, you don't need no other mail at all. When we move on the outskirts of town, won't have nobody, woo, Lord, always hang around. At this highly advanced age, I don't like to play guitar all the time because I have arthritis in my hands. So I play a lot of harmonica nowadays. So when I get arthritis in my tongue, I'm going to be in big problems. So. We'll see. We'll see. Again, this song I've left out a lot of the lyrics. We'll just see how far we can go with this. If you love that woman, love her with a thrill. If you don't, some other man will. You better love her with a feeling. You better love your woman with a feeling, man. You don't love your woman at all. If you love your woman, love her with a thrill. If you don't, maybe Oatis will. Yo, love her with a feeling. Love your woman with a feeling. You don't get to love that pretty woman at all. The cops took her in. That woman didn't need no bail. She shook her money maker for the judge, and the judge put the cops in jail. You better love her with a feeling. Better love her with a feeling, man. You don't get to love that woman at all. She shakes all over when she walk. She make a blind man see. She make a dumb man talk. You better love her with a feeling. You better love your woman with a feeling. You don't get to love it all. you don't, some other man will. You better love her with a feeling. You better love your woman with a feeling, man. You don't get to love your pretty little woman at all. Thank you very much. I'll play a couple more later, and I guess we'll get on with the proceedings.
Yeah, thank you so much, though. This is awesome. Wow. And one of our taglines is for our community celebrating the human experience, and I think that qualifies. So, good. Excellent. It was really nice. It was a treat. I'm going to, this is the first week that we've done anything. This is the very first gathering. I think this is an awesome turnout for the very first gathering. Very gratifying. And obviously we hope to grow. And we'll share more of those ideas, and we can get a bigger room next week too. I know it feels a little cramped in here today, and they have bigger rooms available, and I think we have someone who can handle children's programming next week, so we can start children's programming next week, and that'll give some relief for the parents. But just thanks for bearing with us, and realize that we're a work in progress, and we're all going to grow together through this, and we'll be flexible and just have a good time as we go, mainly, because we want this to be a good place, a place where you come and feel better about life when you leave. So one of the things I was thinking we do each week is have a brief kind of a humanist moment where someone from our community will share maybe a little bit about their journey, maybe 5 minutes or so, just kind of how they got here, why they want to be a part of something like this. And to kick us off on that tradition, I'd like to invite up my good friend Donald Wright. So let's welcome Donald.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. It's always exciting to start something new, right? It's like the Christmas morning stuff. You get the new presents and all that. So it's kind of like a new Christmas gift. Depending on your perspective. Y'all remember Christmas some of you? Okay. Welcome. I mean, this is exciting to do this, and like Mike say, it's going to be something that we can really build. So I extend to each of you my welcome in terms of this new free thought community, where we are growing something different. Houston Oasis, a community grounded in reason, celebrating the human experience. The word Oasis. I think about this perfect environment, 74 degrees, 50% humidity, light breeze, lush vegetation, sparkling clean water, plenty of fruits and vegetables, and then a place where there's peace and tranquility, and within that environment, life can thrive. For some reason, when I hear the word Oasis, I don't think about throwing meat on the grill. For some reason, I just can't relate barbecuing to an Oasis for some reason. But thank you all so much for coming, because we anticipate this to be a community where we're going to build a better world, and you can be a part of that. To share a little bit about my story, W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, Robert Greene Ingersoll, Bertrand Russell, and Thomas Paine. These were men that, through their writings, provided me with the influence that allowed my transition away from religion into humanism. I will always be indebted to these great gentlemen. To talk a little bit about my story, I grew up in a little town in Alabama. black man in the South that is now no longer religious, which is an anomaly to probably some of y'all. Like, we don't meet too many black people that's not religious. But here's one. Glad to be here. And my journey pretty much started in 2002 when I started my own engineering company. Now, the reason why that's significant is because it allowed me this opportunity to expand my thoughts. It allowed me the time and the freedom to evaluate a lot of different things. And as I began my engineering firm, I was seeing myself with this opportunity to evaluate different things. And so my free thought started then. But my journey actually away from religion actually didn't start until 3 years later. And that was because of a situation that happened in church. And that particular situation, I've been in church up until 2006. In fact, 6 years ago this month is when I left church. And I was a deacon in a Baptist church, member of a pretty large mega church here in Houston. And in October 2003, the crap hit the fan. And what I mean by that is the pastor got caught in a homosexual scandal. It went to local, it was on national news and everything. And so as a result of that, the church had to make a decision about whether he's going to remain pastor or not. And by a slim margin, the church voted that he would remain as pastor. Now the challenge with that is the Black Baptist Church, or Christianity in general, doesn't support homosexuality. So that was a real challenge. And being a Baptist for so long, being a deacon, I didn't agree with that practice either. So I voted that he should be removed as pastor. And since they decided that he's going to stay there, then myself and my wife decided that we were going to leave that church. So what happened then is that started me on another journey, because I was determined to find a different type of church. I wanted to learn more about this religious concept because there was obviously something missing. There was something I didn't know, because my experience in the church was that I saw pastors do a lot of different things that wasn't acceptable. But the members thought it was okay. I mean, they really didn't hold him accountable for it. And that was confusing to me. And so I said, it must be something in the Bible that allows that I haven't found. So I'm going to find it. So my journey to study the Bible and Christianity began in October 2003. Now, the reason why that's significant is because my study was to be scholarly. It was to be dedicated to understanding the intricacies of religion, Christianity, in the Bible. So I became a student. So in that process, my journey to learn more about the Bible and religion opened my mind and exposed religion and the Bible to me that I hadn't seen before. So I started studying these guys that I just mentioned, W.E.B., Carter G., Bertrand, Thomas Paine, and Robert Ingersoll. That information was overwhelming. And in this process, making that determination, first seeing Christianity change in terms of my viewpoint and attitudes about it, and then to start seeing that all of this was a fallacy, led me to some real lonely, dark times, because my worldview was being shattered. And when I made the decision, after I read Age of Reason, Thomas Paine, which was that item, it was that document that allowed me to make that step to say, good, now I can leave this stuff. Because he made it, that was so clear to me in terms of the way he evaluated Christianity and other religions. So I have more appreciation for Thomas Paine than I ever have before. And then I studied more about him, and he's an incredible person. And I encourage each of you to read it if you haven't. And I certainly put him high on our list as a patriot, because he defines patriotism the way that a lot of the guys that we hear on Fox News don't. So anyway, so Thomas Paine is my true patriot. I certainly put him above Oliver North. Some of y'all don't even know Oliver North. So anyway, September 2006 was my last day in church, pretty much, and I never thought I'd be back in church though. But this is a good place. This is not church. This is a community, and so this is a great place to be. Something great to build, and we're looking forward to doing this. And you all is what's going to make it happen. So I appreciate you all joining us. In closing, I want to share that I am an atheist, but more dominantly a humanist. An atheist can be racist, which means supporting white supremacy. A humanist cannot. An atheist can support war, but a humanist cannot. An atheist can support capitalist greed, oppression, and exploitation. A true humanist cannot. An atheist can be homophobic. A true humanist cannot. An atheist can shun the poor and the homeless. A true humanist cannot. Regardless of your label or lack thereof, please ponder this question. What type of world do you prefer to have in the future? Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Donald. That was wonderful. And I'm not doing a sermon, okay? We're not calling it a sermon. Whatever you say, don't call it a sermon, okay? It's a talk, a message, a spiel, whatever you want to call it. But and so we'll have this kind of message time each week. I'm not the answer man. I have stepped out of that role forever. Not speaking from a position of authority, just speaking to someone who likes to read a lot and think about what I'm reading and talk about it with others. And so what I'd like to do is facilitate a conversation more than anything. And hopefully it'll become, we're going to evolve, we'll experiment with some different formats, maybe including some Q&A, and make it a little more interactive so it's less like a sermon. And I mean, I just feel free to, our crowd is such that, I think if you had a pleasant comment to share, feel free to do that in the middle. If you say something unpleasant, it'll throw me off, and I won't be able to handle it. But Miss Teasen, we can deal with it. But anyway, and the other thing too is in the future, as we grow, I want this community to be a community with many voices. You heard Donald today. We'll be having other people talking in the future. And do I need to do something? Or?
We can't get these lights to come on, and it's we just.
Do you need them for this thing? Or?
It'll be a little bit. Okay, that's better. That's better.
Thank you. But as we grow and as we get more resources, and hopefully become a community of a significant size, I'd like to see us bringing in, whenever we can, maybe monthly or once every other month, to start some really big names. Authors that I'm acquainted with, scientists and speakers who might like to come and share us a message every once in a while too. So it's not, a one-man show as much as possible. So, but for now you're stuck with me, and I like to talk, so that's it. So, I would like to start with, an inspirational reading. And I don't have my Bible today, which is fine with me, but
thank God.
Yeah. And we may occasionally refer to stuff in the Bible, because I've thought about, well, you could certainly look at the prodigal son story in Luke 15 as an entirely without any reference to metaphysics whatsoever, just as a parable of human relationships. I mean, so it's not that we're going to totally avoid stuff like that, but I wanted to start today with a passage from Dan Dennett's book, Breaking the Spell. I'm anxious to check out some of Donald's reading list, because I have not read Age of Reason. I need to. It's a gap. My journey, I think, came through a slightly different path. And it happened, kind of my aha moment really happened as I read this passage, where towards the end of Dan Dennett's book, Breaking the Spell. Dan Dennett also wrote Darwin's Dangerous Idea, which I highly recommend. He's talking about the notion of spirituality. And I like, and I have to kind of break into I don't have time to read the whole section here, but I like, these words struck me, where he's responding to people who are trying to define spirituality, and that non-theists lack spirituality. And he says, now let me try to put better words in their mouths. What these people have realized is one of the best secrets of life is to let yourself go. If you can approach the world's complexities, both its glories and its horrors, with an attitude of humble curiosity, acknowledging that however deeply you have seen, you have only just scratched the surface. I love that. You will find worlds within worlds, beauties you could not heretofore imagine, and your own mundane preoccupations will shrink to proper size, not all that important in the greater scheme of things. Keeping that awestruck vision of the world ready at hand while dealing with the demands of daily living is no easy exercise, but it is definitely worth the effort. For if you can stay centered and engaged, you will find the hard choices easier, the right words will come to you when you need them, and you will indeed be a better person. And that, I propose, is the secret to spirituality, and has nothing at all to do with believing in an immortal soul or anything supernatural. And when I read that passage, I thought to myself, this'll preach. Which is a phrase that preachers often use, because they're always looking for material, and it's like, that'll preach. And there's no reference to some, unseen entities and unprovable things. It's all grounded in this world as it is, and I like that. And so that's my theme for today, is keeping an awestruck vision of the world. And just as an aside, I want material from you guys as you come across books and articles, or if you have a theme you'd like us to talk about on a Sunday. I'd love to talk about it with you. So send them in to me. A little bit later, towards the end, we'll talk about how we're going to communicate with each other, and how you can get a hold of me, and how we can communicate as a group. But it's keeping an awestruck vision of the world. I mean, that's what a lot of religious experience is about, isn't it? I mean, there's an attempt to express that feeling. And you can relate to that even if you don't buy into the metaphysical claims, the myths and so forth. When I lived in Japan years ago, I used to love going to Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples. I did not believe any gods lived in the Shinto shrines. Nobody in Japan anymore believes any gods live in the Shinto shrines. But they're beautiful places. And you get that awestruck sense of beauty and wonder, and wow, this is so cool. There's always, Japanese have this amazing sense of aesthetics that pervades life. And the shrines, I don't know if you've been to Japan, but the shrines are always in a place of great natural beauty. They're at the foot of a mountain, or next to a waterfall, or near the shoreline. It's always to mark some place of incredible beauty that any human being. I mean, I had the same feeling when I went to the Acropolis for the first time in Athens. It's like, oh, anyone been there to Athens to see the Acropolis? Yeah. Isn't that just like, wow, it is so cool. And it's lit up really neat at night, and you don't get tired of looking at the Acropolis. Yeah, actually you probably do. If you're and it's all dinged up and damaged. That's not because it's old, it's because it got bombarded in the 1850s by either the French or the British, I can't remember who. But it's like, man, we just messed everything up. They messed up the Acropolis over some stupid thing. But anyway, but it's, Athena doesn't live in the Acropolis, and heck, even, most Greeks never believed she lived there anyway, but it's wondrous nonetheless. And, and now I know that sense of awe and wonder and aha is itself a chemical reaction in my brain. And I didn't realize that before. I'm a slow learner. Some of you guys are going to have to bear with me. But so I have over the past couple of years had this kind of born again religious experience, not religious, born again experience through evolution that for me has been more powerful than anything I ever experienced in religious life at all. And so I can't stop talking about it. And I'm just obsessed with learning more and more about evolution. I was never a biblical literalist or fundamentalist, so it always kind of made sense to me that, you know how you can kind of understand evolution in like a vague way, like it's out there, it's this theory, but, it makes sense that giraffes who could reach the higher leaves got more nutrition, and so nature, selected for longer necks, and I could understand how it changed our physical bodies. That made sense. But what really clicked for me, kind of the tipping point, was when I learned about this thing called evolutionary psychology. That is, it's not just, what is it that evolution explains about us is more than just our bodies. It explains like everything. Our psyches, our mental processes, our behaviors. And when a big turning point for me, and this is here again, you guys know this stuff, but it's worth putting up there, is just the scale of human existence. And I think we need to remember this more often than we do, that, let's see, hominids have been around for like 2 million years? Let's do roughly, okay? Don't say 1.5 or something like that, okay? So let's say hominids. Okay. And then Homo sapiens only for like 200,000 years. Only 200,000 years. I was blown away the other day to hear that Neanderthal existed longer than Homo sapiens did. Like, they had more history on this planet than we have had yet. They were around for over 300,000 years. And then for 190,000 of the 200,000 years of our existence, we were hunter-gatherers. Only settled down to the first small agrarian communities 10,000 years ago. Only had what we might call civilization, like larger cities, written languages, back to 5,000 years ago. The beginning of the Common Era, which we used to call AD, 2,000 years ago. And you see pretty quickly that, we like to think of stuff that happened during the time of Jesus and the Roman Empire as ancient. Ha! It's a joke. It ain't, you go to New Orleans, look at all these old buildings. Everybody says that in New Orleans. That's not old. It's not old. Our genetic makeup is identical to people who lived 70,000 years ago. Think about that. So if you could be transported through a magic time machine to 70,000, a hunter-gatherer, settlement 70,000 years ago, back in Africa before our ancestors broke out. Yes, we are all Africans. I saw a T-shirt that said that. I love that. You would feel strangely at home. I mean, once you got over the language and stuff like that, it would feel like a not too unpleasant camp out. You would like the campsites they had found for themselves. You probably like the food they'd be eating. Really, that's like the whole reason we even like camping, right? I mean, from a rational perspective, why would we ever choose to sleep on the ground when there's a Holiday Inn in the vicinity? Why? And yet we camp anyway. Because there's something deep down here somewhere that says, go camp. And sit by the campfire. The entire history of what we call human civilization is a fraction of a blip on the cosmic clock. And I think that's one of the things Dan Dennett is talking about, that sense of humility and awe. A fraction of a blip on the cosmic clock. This explains why people in Ireland have the same natural inborn fear of snakes that every other human being has, even though there are no snakes in Ireland. That's weird. Yeah, there are no snakes in Ireland. Yeah. And if you take an Irishman out to the desert and they see a snake, they will jump just like you and I. You don't have to be trained to do that. Anthropologists have shown, I love this, photos of Westerners with various facial expressions, expressing joy, happiness, sadness, disgust, surprise, everything. And they asked the tribesmen of Papua New Guinea what these facial expressions are saying, and they nail all of them, because all of us use the same facial expressions everywhere, all Homo sapiens. No human culture has ever used a frown to express happiness. Think about that. I was happy to learn fairly recently that the change in hominid behavior most closely associated with the larger brains, the big, that Homo sapiens have, that humans, that made us human, was meat eating. And I was happy to hear this because I know that I should cut back on my meat consumption, so I'm always looking for reasons not to. And I admire vegetarians a whole lot, but it ain't evolutionarily right to be a vegetarian. Sorry, not picking any fights, but basically bigger brains burn a lot of calories. And meat provided the necessary calories efficiently. There were other important benefits to meat eating and cooking, which I'd love to talk about another time, which are just fascinating. But suffice it to say that, that's basically it. More calories for the bigger brain, getting those calories efficiently. Obvious survival advantages there. Which explains something that happened to me at HEB the other day. I was standing in front of the bacon section, and there's like this bewildering array of bacon now. I mean, it's just apple smoked, maple smoked, pepper bacon, thick cut bacon, uncured bacon. I mean, it's endless.
Baconaise. Baconaise.
Baconaise. Yeah. Well, don't even go to bacon byproducts, but baconaise is good. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like momentarily paralyzed by the choice of bacon. And there's a guy standing next to me, and like he's clearly in the same dilemma. And then a thought struck me that I shared with him, and I turned to him and I said, I've never had bad bacon. And he's like, yeah, neither have I, come to think of it. And because the $5.99 a pound bacon tastes really good, but the $1.99 a pound bacon tastes really good too. And that's my plasticine brain craves it, and that's what's going on. And it's little facts like that that explain a lot about human experience today. Some of us were at a lecture by E.O. Wilson back in May at Rice University, and this is if there's one quote this year that I found to be the most thought-provoking quote I've heard all year, it was from E.O. Wilson in that lecture, and he said this: "We have created a Star Wars civilization with Stone Age emotions, medieval institutions, and a godlike technology. We thrash about. We are terribly confused by the fact of our own existence." I love that. A Star Wars civilization with Stone Age emotions and medieval institutions. That says a lot about the human experience, and about a lot of the disconnect and the neuroses and the angst that we feel, as Homo sapiens today. And understanding that fact is a huge step towards healing the situation. And that's why I think we need to know this stuff and talk about it and think about how it impacts just our daily life. So the next time some guy cuts you off and gives you the finger on the road, and it's going to be a guy, and there's an evolutionary basis for that too. You can think, you can think, oh, he's just been momentarily hijacked by his reptilian brain, and he can't do anything about it. And understanding, I think, brings healing. And that brings us to, I think, what I want to talk about, why we're here today as a new community. Because, we are living in this time, this amazing time, when science is giving us just increasingly compelling and satisfying answers for the big questions. We know that the old religious answers were stabs in the dark to explain kind of why we're here and how we got here. And, but rejecting the metaphysical claims and the myths and the fairy tales that have no basis in empirical reality does not mean that we reject human nature. And I think that's what Donald said so beautifully, and what it means to be, kind of have a humanistic perspective. Being people who are trying to live lives of reason doesn't mean that we can deny who we are. Quite the contrary. I think a life of reason ought to lead to an affirmation of human nature, not its denial. There's stuff just too deeply embedded in our DNA for millions of years that's just a part of who we are. And we got to deal with it and acknowledge it and not ignore it. We are an intentionally tribal species. That's not going away. We have to gather with others. It felt good. I love watching people come into the room today and seeing the people here. Smiles, automatic smiles at seeing the people in the room. Because we like gathering. That's just who we are. We have altruistic impulses to come together, to do things to alleviate suffering, to improve the lot of our fellow members of our species. Those altruistic impulses are too deeply embedded. They're not going to, we need a way to do that together. We are ritualistic, and that also is from the reptilian brain. All human cultures everywhere have rituals, no matter what your religion or geography or whatever. All human cultures have gathered to celebrate marriages, have gathered to celebrate new life in the community, and yes, even gathered to commemorate death. Even if it's just two guys standing on a cliff over the Pacific Ocean blowing ashes into the wind, like at the end of Lebowski. That's ritual. One of the reasons I wanted to get involved in a new project like this is I'm looking down the road now as a free thinker to the time when I get to be very old and I'm in a nursing home somewhere. I want someone from this tribe to come see me. I do. When my eyes are failing, I want some bright young person to come to me and read excerpts of Darwin or Paine or the latest issue of Scientific American maybe, or the National Geographic at least. We need that, and we need to do that for each other. The future of our planet depends not just on increasing on a reliance of reason over magical thinking. I think it also depends upon the birth of a new humanism, a new commitment to the well-being and the dignity of all people, and the recognition that we're ultimately all in this together. I gotta share one more story. I ran across this the other day. Nah, I'll save that for next week. I'm sorry, it's good, but we're running out of time. And we got more stuff to do. We got more music, and we got to get you out of here. I do want to close with this. Oh, wrong book. This book, The Mating Mind by Jeffrey Miller, it's an in-depth look at the dynamics of sexual selection, which is, of course, the flip side of natural selection. And I love this passage from him where he says about just, he's talking about the way when we start kind of looking down on others. He says, when our automatic judgments assert themselves, tempting us to discriminate and objectify when we should be sympathizing, we might try remembering the following. First, all living humans are evolutionary success stories whose 80,000 or so genes, well, we know there's less now, but have already managed to prosper through thousands or millions of generations. Second, all normal humans are incredibly intelligent, creative, articulate, artistic, and kind, compared with our hominid ancestors. Third, through contingencies of human romance and genetic inheritance, almost everyone you meet will produce at least one great-grandchild who will be brighter, kinder, and more beautiful than most of your great-grandchildren. Such lessons in humility, transience, and empathy come naturally from an evolutionary perspective on human nature. I love that. Every human being we meet is a miracle. It's true. And I think that helps me keep the vision of awestruck wonder. And I hope that's what we can be about as a community, that you'll go out this week and have that vision of awestruck wonder. We'll start seeing people as miracles of gene pools that have survived for millions of years. And so I just thank you for being here today. I hope you'll continue the journey. Hope you're having a good time. And I think we'll keep having fun together. Thank you. We're going to invite...
I call this organizing force Nigel. I also believe in fairies at the bottom of the garden too. So most of my beliefs come from my background in molecular genetics. And I recently came back from a 12-day trip to China, where I was lucky enough to visit the Beijing Genomics Institute, which is poorly named because it's not in Beijing, it's in Shenzhen. But they've now got enough computing power and enough DNA analysis equipment to manage 2,000 human genomes per day, which is, they've got about 40% of the world's capacity for genome analysis, which is pretty amazing. While I was there, I had a kind of a sidetrack, mental jumping of the track, and I thought, you can do all these human genomes and you know the sequences of the chromosomes. I wonder where Jesus' Y chromosome came from. You need to think about that.
Write a song about it, though.
Yeah, they make a good song. I know where his mitochondria came from. They had to come from Mary, okay? But that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, though. This is a song called Insurance by a man called Jimmy Reed. And Jimmy Reed liked fermented beverages to the extent that he couldn't remember the words to his own songs. And so his wife, Mama Reed, used to sit behind him and whisper the words into his ear. And you can hear this on some of the recordings. So my great friend T.C. Smythe, when I recorded the last CD that I did, she came into the studio and she was my Mama Reed. And she helped me with this song. So it's called Insurance. If you leave me, baby, say you won't be back, that would be the end of me, because I'd have a heart attack. You better get some insurance on me, baby. Take out some insurance on me, baby. Cause if you ever say goodbye, I'm going to lay right down and die. You don't know me, baby, like I know myself. We couldn't live if you should give all your love to someone else. You better get some insurance on me, baby. Take out some insurance on me, baby. If you ever say goodbye, I'm going to lay right down and die. Now don't take no sick or accident, cause I'm healthy as a man can be. If you got any sense, you take your hand and write a full life policy on me. Darling, you know I love you as long as I draw breath. If we part, you know, sweetheart, it would worry me to death. You better get some insurance on me, baby. Take out some insurance on me, baby. 'Cause if you ever say goodbye, if you ever say goodbye, if you ever say goodbye, I'm gonna lay right down and die. I'm gonna lay right down and die, baby. You better get some insurance on me, 'cause the president says I gotta have some. 'Cause if you ever say goodbye, if you ever say goodbye, if you ever say goodbye, I'm gonna lay right down and die.